Good evening, my lovely things. Happy Friday. I hope you're all ready for the weekend because I know I am already. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was going to discuss my top 10 favorite alien movies, even though that's actually really hard to do because there's not that many alien movies that I really like, surprisingly. I love sci fi movies, but not all of them have aliens. So, number 10 is Pitch Black, and this one, if no one's familiar with it, is with Vin Diesel. I thought the aliens were cool, but the movie, I'll admit, kind of bored the hell out of me. I fell asleep during my first time watching Pitch Black, and I fell asleep during Riddick. I actually had a hard time staying awake for both of them, multiple times. It took a long time for me to actually watch them all the way through. I'll admit it, and I'm so sorry to those that love these movies. I feel really bad, but it just it really is a hard watch for me. It has an interesting concept. I mean, it's different from other sci-fi action movies that are out there, but it's not one of my favorites. Number 9 is Titan A. I'm not sure if any of you know this movie or even are familiar with it. It is an animated movie. It's old. I actually liked the aliens and the storyline. So, what it's about is humans and aliens are coexisting. They live among each other, but humans have developed a weapon that would eradicate them. And the aliens find out about this and they're trying to prevent this from happening because they don't want to be wiped out. Can't blame them. I always wish they'd remake it as a live action movie and maybe change it up some in terms of the action scenes. Because this was made for kids, I have a feeling this would be really dull if they turned it into an live action movie for us. Just because of that, it was made for kids. I think they would have to change some stuff to make it more interesting to the adults as well. Not that it's bad to watch now as an adult, it's just not as great as when I was a kid and watching it. But if you have kids or you've just never seen it before, give it a watch. I mean, it's not a bad watch. Number 8, speaking of, and I keep repeating myself, I'm so sorry. The Watch. I'm a huge Ben Stiller fan, so of course I've seen this movie, and I actually love this movie. It's funny, and it has some similarities to The Body Snatchers in terms of not knowing who is an alien and who is human, because they look just like us. Number 7 is Men in Black. Of course, the Men in Black movies would be on here. I loved the first one, but from there they kind of went downhill for me. I didn't care for the plot lines. I loved the TV show, which was animated, but the plot lines of the second and third were kind of just, I don't know. I didn't find them interesting. I thought the alien in the second and third were interesting. I liked them, but that was about it. Just because they were different from what we were seeing based on the first one. Number 6 is Star Wars. I know it's probably more sci-fi, but there are aliens in it, so I'm counting it. But there are so many Star Wars movies, which made it easier just to put it as a whole. Although my favorite Star Wars movies are the prequels and Episode 6. I love Jabba the Hutt for some reason. I don't really know why. I just love his personality, and to me, I know he's a slug. That's what he looks like, but to me, he looks more like a frog slug because the eyes. It's just what he reminds me of. And I love Ewoks. I actually liked the Ewok movies when I was a kid. The Adventures of the Ewoks or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it's called. I do own them. I have seen them. And I'll admit I don't like them as much as when I was a kid. It doesn't have that same feel, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But you ever notice when you like something when you're a kid and then you watch as an adult and you look at it and go, why the hell did I like this? That's me. That's me with those. But the reason I fell in love with the prequels was because of Obi-Wan, Padme, Anakin, General Grievous, and of course Yoda. I found Anakin's personality very similar to how a teenager would react. I mean, most teenagers want independence, to be an adult, so when they are constantly treated like a child, it infuriates them because it's frustrating. They want to be heard and treated as an equal to their parents or the adults in their life, and they're not. They're treated like they're five a lot of times. I heard this from teenagers when I helped host a group for teenagers. And that's how they felt. They felt like they weren't being heard, that they were constantly treated like they don't know anything. And that's frustrating. And that's pretty much how Anakin was treated from his elders, the masters. On top of that, his reaction to his mother's death, I feel any teen would react in a similar fashion, that rage, knowing that you couldn't save her. You weren't there in time to prevent it or protect her. And that's infuriating, and you want revenge for what these things did to your mother. I feel that the Jedi Code is what destroyed Anakin, to be honest, because he couldn't talk to anyone about the pain he was feeling. Because according to them, you should just ignore it. That's what it seemed like to me, anyways, because it leads to hatred, which leads to the dark side. But if you just let you don't talk about the pain, you just push it deep inside, it's just going to fester. I feel like the masters had no idea what they were talking about and didn't take Anakin's pain seriously. They just ignored it. And thus, they created Darth Vader. That's my opinion anyways. And I honestly feel bad for him, because no one was there for him in his time of need. Except for Palpatine, because he was using him. But anyways, moving on. Number 5 is The Thing, and not the prequel, but the 1982 version. Even though it's not really an original, which I didn't know. I read that it's a remake of another movie, which I did not know. But anyways, I know this is probably surprising being here at number 5 and not, further up. Not further up, but like number 3 or 2 or something. It is one of my favorite movies, though. I loved how the alien could transform into anyone or anything that was living. And no one would be the wiser that an alien was living among them. That's really terrifying if you think about it. I hated the dog scene because they were stuck in there with this thing, and by the time anyone realized something was wrong, it was too late. Because it seemed like everybody was just ignoring the dogs, barking and going nuts, like, hey, there's something in here that isn't right. Still a great movie, and I even liked the prequel of the film because it showed what happened to the Norwegians before the 1982 film. Number 4 is AVP, which I have a feeling you all knew was going to be on here because I do like this movie. I read the novelization of the movie, and it kind of helped me like the film even more. I kind of wish they included the history portion of the Xenomorph and Predator War. In the book, before the book really gets going, they describe what happens to a group of hunters traversing the Amazon jungle for their tribe when they're caught right in the middle of the Xenomorph and Predator battle. One of them, anyways. It would have been awesome to have seen that on the screen, although I think it would have been too gory and bloody for the PG-13 rating. I don't even know why they chose to go with a PG-13 rating when the Alien movies are all rated R, the Predator movies are all rated R. I don't understand why they went for a PG-13 for this. It makes no sense to me. I can't help but wonder if things would have been different if it had the R rating. I feel like the rating system holds back the creative process, but that's just me and my thought pattern. I've read that people actually gave the Predator movie and I think the Predators movie as well bad ratings because of the action, the amount of violence and gore in them, and supposedly making guns out to be these amazing things, but it's military. You're gonna have a lot of weaponry. I don't understand that thought pattern, but that's just me. Number 3 is Predators. I love this movie. You got to see the culture of the predators as well as their tactics and how they hunt. They seem to put their prey on different planets and see how they adjust to their new surroundings. I love the tension, the effects of being someone who survived and being left until the next hunt. And it made him a little not all there, we'll say, and pretty vindictive because he was trying to keep himself alive, pretty much, for as long as he possibly could. I also liked how the people chosen were from completely different backgrounds as well as different countries altogether. It was fascinating to see how the predators analyzed everyone before choosing them, which tells me how are they watching people to make their decisions of who would be a good competitor, basically. I wanted them to make a continuation showing whether the humans remaining ever get home or if they find a way to survive by working with newly chosen warriors to combat against the predators and survive somehow to steal one of the ships. I really want to know what happened to them. Number 2 is Aliens, which you're probably not really surprised by because I did mention this in my last video. It's my favorite alien movie, so of course it was going to be on here. There's so much I adore about this movie, mostly the alien queen, of course. Before we get to the number 1 on my list, don't forget to click that like and subscribe buttons to show your support by becoming a fan. It's a huge help to the channel and myself. I greatly appreciate it. And number 1, you probably already knew because of my background. Is Predator. It comes in at number 1 because it's what started my love of both franchises. It was such an epic movie. I adored the cast. Seeing them try to understand what happened to the missing military team and finding it isn't something human behind the wreckage. You're seeing these strong men struggle, wondering what is happening as their friends and comrades are picked off one after another, just made the suspense hit that much harder. I also liked how Anna mentions that these creatures have been there before. She talks about her grandmother and how her grandmother told her these stories about these beings in the heat and finding their men hung from the trees. Since AVP and watching Predator, I have wondered if the Predator was sent there because of xenomorphs, not because of humans. It has always made me question the possibility. Especially after Predators, we know that they don't seem to just want to hunt humans, but anything they feel is a worthy opponent. So wouldn't they go to a planet where there's xenomorphs? And wouldn't it have been really interesting to have seen that in Predator? Just my own thoughts and opinions. Some honorable mentions: The Day the Earth Stood Still. I actually haven't seen the original, only the remake with Keanu Reeves, and I loved it. I thought it was really cool. A Quiet Place 1 and 2, although those were kind of ruined for me thanks to my husband. He poked a lot of holes in the plot of that movie. But anyways, if you'd like to know my thoughts on that, click the little card above me to check it out. District 9 was interesting. I really liked the robots. Inhalation had some great concepts, especially with the alterations to the life forms that were stuck in the bubble. And it actually looked like a literal bubble that you blow from outside with the either bubble machines or the bubble wands, whatever, when you were a kid. Transformers is one of my favorites. I love the franchise and the TV show. I grew up with it. It is technically an alien. The being did come from space, so I put him on here. Although my favorite version is the made-for-TV miniseries in 1990, which is probably still surprising to some people because a lot of people prefer the remake. I just don't care for it. Because the 1990 version gave me nightmares and scared the living daylights out of me. Whereas the new one is lacking it for me. I don't find him scary. It doesn't scare me at all. So because it's lacking that, I just don't care. And part of what made it terrifying was the transformations. You don't really see them in the remake, so it just doesn't exist to me. They don't exist. I am curious about the TV show that's been talked about. It'll be interesting to see where they go with it. That's about it. I will watch that. Avatar is my final honorable mention. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I see this movie as a retelling of the Disney version of Pocahontas. There isn't much difference between the plots of Avatar and the Disney Pocahontas. Really isn't. I liked the colors. The alien creatures on the planet that coexist with the Na'vi were really cool. I honestly think the movie was overhyped. The cast chosen, I think, was perfect, though. I mean, I just had a huge problem with the plot because it wasn't unique for me. I want something unique. Don't give me a representation of a movie that's already existed. I want something totally different. But I mean, I don't know what the next installments have in store for us. I mean, maybe they'll be more unique than the first one. I hope. I really hope that it's not going to be Pocahontas 2. The Disney version of Pocahontas 2. And they make that into an Avatar movie. That'll just set everything in stone for me that these are just not going to be for me. Anyways, only time will tell. So, it's taken a long time for the sequels to come out. So, I have some high hope that they'll surprise me. Many have been wondering if they're even a thing after this long because we don't know if it's going to come out or not. And I know part of it's because of the pandemic. It kind of put everything into a spiral spin downwards. Everything kind of just got really messed up. It's part of why my book hasn't been published, because the pandemic. I don't even know if it's going to get published, to be honest. After all these years, it's been, I think, 2 years. Yeah, roughly 2 years. It's pretty sad. But anyways, moving on. If you have a favorite alien movie that isn't on here, let me know in the comments and I'll give it a watch because I may not have seen it. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Next week, I'll be discussing the Predator films along with the AVP movies more in depth. I'll also be discussing Area 51 and Roswell. If you don't want to miss those, click the bell icon to never miss new content. Be sure to check out my other videos on the screen if you haven't already. Thanks again, and I hope you have an amazing weekend. Take care until next time. Bye, everyone.